Welcome to my new podcast, Gettin Chatty with Platty. The idea of this podcast is going to be a multi-platform series talking to people I have a genuine interest in, not just in the online business space, but people from all walks of life, from elite academics all the way through to compelling authorities within their field of expertise. Now, what I'm really trying to do in this podcast is cut the shit from regular mundane podcasts where the same generic questions are asked. And what you're really going to see today or watch is two successful people having a chat about life and business. Now, today's guest is Rand Fishkin, the co-founder of SparkToro, and he's dedicated his life so far to helping people better their marketing careers through his blog, Moz, online video content, and keynote speaking at marketing conferences around the world. So it's safe to say that he has cemented his authority within the field of marketing. So Rand, with my podcast, as I said, I'm trying to steer away from the traditional business-based questions. So I want to start to understand the minds of entrepreneurs and not only the businesses that they've created. So we're going to start off with 5 quick fire questions. So are you ready to get chatty with Platty today?
Let's do it.
Sweet. So what's the last Netflix series you watched?
Ooh, I think we just finished Teenage Bounty Hunters, which was pretty solid.
Cool. I haven't seen that. I'll have to check that one out. Worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, there's so much terrible advice. Gosh. I mean, in retrospect, I think taking venture capital was a terrible idea. Yeah. I think stepping down from CEO role at Moz was a bad idea. Although I think that was my idea. So maybe terrible advice I've given myself. Let's see. I think I have...
That's good. That's good.
Those are pretty solid.
That's cool. We can move on from there. They're pretty good. So the top 3 people you would love to have around for a dinner party.
Oh my gosh.
Who comes to mind?
I mean, especially right now is an interesting time. I would be absolutely amazed. So there's a group of women in Georgia, the United States, Georgia, not the one in Eastern Europe, but that helped orchestrate a lot of the Get Out the Vote effort, especially in the Atlanta area. One of the best known of those is Stacey Abrams, but there's several others. I think that would be an incredible dinner party to have.
Wicked. Okay, we'll get them ladies round. Food or meal that reminds you most of your childhood?
Grapes.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, the French, the thin French pancakes.
Oh, crepes. Okay, I thought you said grapes as in like the fruit, the small.
I had a very terrible childhood. Grapes were all we got.
Grapes is all you had. Just grapes.
No, crepes. The French
crepes.
Pancakes. My mom would make them sometimes, if it was a special Saturday, Sunday morning. Nice. Occasionally we'd get a crepe.
Nice. Okay, great. I had them the other night, lemon and sugar with them. So
yes, lemon and sugar. That's exactly how I like mine.
The one. That's what we like. Now, finally, on the quick fire questions, what would your best friend or your partner say is your most annoying habit or trait?
I think so. Geraldine, who is my romantic partner and I think qualifies as best friend too, she would say, if she were being honest, she would say that I am a very, very emotionally sensitive person, and that can impact my ability to take criticism like an adult and process it well. And instead, she has to dress it up a little bit.
I would say I'm very, very similar to that. So that's interesting. Yeah. And actually, it leads me on to my first point on this interview. It's very similar to myself. You dropped out of university, although you dropped out of University of Washington in year 2000. Now, to start your entrepreneurial career, you were working with your mum, weren't you? She had a small marketing business as a web developer. Can you tell me whether this is the first memory of you wanting to be in the entrepreneurial world, or was there a time before that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
So I had this, I don't know what to call it, scheme. I had a scheme in college.
Okay.
This is before I dropped out. So one of the big reasons I dropped out, Jordan, is I got in a fight with my dad. I don't know if you read Lost and Founder, but I got in a fight with my dad, and he sort of threatened like, well, if you whatever. I can't, who knows what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for your college anymore. Right. And, you know, privileged white kid in Seattle, I was like, fine, I'll pay for my own college, Dad. And back in 2000, one could still work at a relatively low wage job and afford college, because this is before, so George Bush signed something, W. Bush signed something in the early 2000s that made it such that you couldn't declare bankruptcy and get rid of your student loans. Okay. And so student loan rates, you know, went crazy high, and the amount of debt that people took on, and school administrations raised. In any case, I could make $5 an hour in 2000 and pay my tuition for university and my housing and most of my books and all that kind of stuff, right? Impossible to do today, even if you're making $15 or $50 an hour. Now, I worked at a company called Wizards of the Coast, which today is best known for making like Dungeons and Dragons. But back in the early 2000s, they made a card game called Pokemon, which was like this Japanese card game. They licensed it here, and I could buy Pokemon cards at employee discount and then sell them on Craigslist or eBay for like 5 times as much.
Crafty. And
so that is basically how I, you know, afforded everything for my last year before I dropped out of school.
Amazing.
And that was probably my first experience with being entrepreneurial, right? So it was doing like, it wasn't even digital marketing, right? All I was really doing was putting up listings and, you know, trying to game the system and see how many cards I could buy at employee discount without getting in trouble at work. And
you were making Pokemon cards a tradable market. This is a commodity that you were trading with.
Yeah, well, so the problem was Wizards of the Coast only really operated in the greater Seattle area. That's where they had stores. But of course, there was demand for the cards nationwide in the United States, right? All these kids and their parents, especially for that holiday season, like Pokemon cards were a huge deal. And so, you know, I remember having like everyone from my family come to the store and like buy their maximum number of cards that they could. Because even if at not employee discount, at regular price, they were selling for more.
It's this. Have you seen like at the moment, like people are buying up Pokemon cards like no tomorrow? Like I think Logan Paul just paid something like 150,000 for one card. And like there's cards going up, like lots of people who have got any kind of money are like chucking it into Pokemon cards. Because I mean, whilst the value has like increased over the years already, like I think they're seeing that this is going to be an asset which really is going to be worth a ton of cash in the future.
Boy, I don't know. If baseball cards are any indication, I would get out now.
Well, I'm not trading any of them, so
yeah, I would not be in the cardboard collectibles business again.
No. Well, we're talking a business. When you're at university, and like so many people that will be watching this will be in university, younger generations these days have a lot of alternative options other than going to university to do well in the business world. What would your advice be to younger people if they're undecided what to do after high school?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on where you are, to be honest. You know, if you look at the statistics, right? So the answer I'd love to give you, Jordan, and that I think would be, you know, the one that's sort of true to myself is, yeah, you have tons of alternatives. There's lots of different ways to educate yourself and get into the business world and do entrepreneurial things. And if you want to become, you know, if you want to pursue creative endeavors, I think that's an amazing thing too. And then you look at the reality of the stats, and in the United States, if you don't have a college degree, the odds that you will, you know, die an early death of despair is it's awful. Yeah. Awful, right? The odds that you will, you know, have problematic prescriptive drug addictions, that you'll have health problems, that you won't be able to afford your health care, right? Almost every rich country, I don't think that's actually true. Sorry, every rich country in the world, except for the United States, has socialized medicine, right? As, you know, and that's a very good thing, right? And you can see that life expectancy rates in virtually every country are rising, with the exception of the United States, where it's going down. And it is going down most significantly in the United States for people without a college degree. And so part of me wants to say, yeah, pursue your bliss. And the other part says, boy, statistically speaking, that is not a safe recommendation to make. You need that degree in order to ensure your, you know, relative safety in a very brutalistic capitalist economy.
My thoughts on the contrary to that, though, would be that you and I, sat where we are exceptions to those statistics, first of all. And I know the UK is different in the way that we have the NHS and we have different health systems. So we've got that relief of pressure.
Yeah.
But the majority of people watching this are aspiring entrepreneurs, are marketers. And I think one thing that we always come across is, do we need a marketing degree to be successful in marketing? And so my audience predominantly are aspiring agency owners and people who already have marketing agencies and want to scale up. And so something I always come across like all the time is people saying, hey, Jordan, do I need a marketing degree? Do I need this? Do I need that? Now, my answer to that is always, no, you don't need a marketing degree as long as you know what you're doing. And so if we're talking strictly marketing right now, do you think a degree is necessary to be successful within this space?
No, absolutely not. However, I like to play the odds, right?
Okay.
Right. So I would not say, oh, you need a marketing degree to go into marketing, or you need a, computer science degree to start programming or to be a web developer. Those things are not true, right? Absolutely not. And there's tons of examples. And also, you might be successful, right? You might be able to do well in this economy without a college degree. What I'm saying is, I think it's dangerous to give that advice broadly.
Yeah,
because I think it is not empathetic to the reality of the situation, which is, the UK, I think, the totally different story because of socialized medicine and just generally a more supportive, economic infrastructure for people who don't have college degrees. But in the United States, it's just a not super safe suggestion. So I think you can get a degree in paleontology, you could get a degree in communications, you get a degree in art history, in theater. You probably do great in marketing, right? I think a theater degree is probably a better match for a marketer than a marketing degree. Yeah. And that's not because theater teaches you so much about, the exact applications and tactical things you're going to do in the marketing world. It is because the creativity required, the empathy that, something like theater or art history gives you, which what better skill is there? What better strategy for doing great marketing is there than empathy?
Yeah.
That's going to predict good things. And having a college degree in general will allow you to transition careers. Let's say the marketing world 10 years from now goes kaput for some reason, right? There's just a huge, a glut of too many people who are trained in it and not enough jobs and whatever, and you need to transition your career. Yeah. Other fields may require a college degree. And so that's where my thinking is on the get a college degree.
100%. Is that for you? It's that security. It's that stability. It's having that backup plan, which I can completely respect as well. And it's interesting you said about the theatre thing. I actually used to study theatre every weekend. Used to act in theatres throughout about 10 years old for about to 19 years old on stage. And I always say to people, doing those drama classes was life-changing in the way that it built this confidence and this ability to communicate with people that I don't think I would have got in anything else that I did. So I couldn't agree with you more on that point.
I love that. I think that's a great point. I had not considered how much it builds confidence too, because I would be scared out of my mind to do theater, but I get on stages all around the world and speak about marketing and technology and entrepreneurship and, all these kinds of topics and have no fear, right? There's, there's a crowd of 10,000 people. That's fine. They want to hear about all the crazy shit Google's pulling, but, do a little banquo. Oh God, get me out of here.
It's like this different perception in your mind. It's like, and on the flip side to that, I was completely the same way, but in a reverse. When I first spoke on stage, I was terrified. But it probably has to do with the fact that I didn't prepare anything whatsoever, and I was pretty much winging the entire thing. So that's probably why I was worried about it.
I mean, it's challenging, right? Do you know your lines or do you not know your lines? And when I go on stage, I don't know my lines, and that is what gives me comfort.
Yeah, I think there's comfort in being able to just wing it because you are more naturally yourself. And once you get up there, you get in that flow, and then one sentence comes after another, and then all of a sudden it's you're all good and the time's up and you're on to the next. So no, I couldn't agree more. Rand, going back to the task at hand, going back to a few things I got prepared for you. For the benefit of everybody else who may or may not know who you are, you had some huge success within your blog, Moz. And you took the business from 7 employees to 134 employees, and the revenue from, correct me if I'm wrong, $800,000 to 2.9 million. No, 29 million, sorry, I'm completely wrong there. 7 years later, though, you said that, and I read this online, you started to suffer with depression. And firstly, I'd like to say how much I admire your honesty. And I really want to touch on this moment in your life, because I feel that it will help people listening, especially at a time when mental health is really being put to the test for millions and millions of people, especially with lockdown, with the pandemic and all of that stuff. You said between 2013 and 2014, your mental health declined, and ultimately it led to you standing down as Moz CEO, as you mentioned early on. And you put a lot of this down to the shame of some mistakes you may or may not have made within the business. And I'd love to know if you could give your past self or any advice for any young person watching this right now on how to overcome the guilt of making poor business decisions and life decisions. What would it be?
Man, so I am someone who, for years, I think defined my professional career by how much I beat myself up for the mistakes of the past. Mm-hmm. And to be brutally honest, I don't know that I've fully gotten to a place of forgiveness, mm-hmm. but I think I am much more in the space where I just want another crack at it. Mm-hmm. Right. I want a chance to prove that I can do it again. And, very frankly, that's a big reason why I started SparkToro as opposed to taking, a job at some big tech company or something like that. Mm-hmm. And for folks who might be going through similar struggles, I don't know that there is one path that leads to self-forgiveness and mm-hmm. absolution. I think that it's probably different for every different person. Mm-hmm. And I think that part of finding that comes from understanding your internal motivation and why success is so important to you, right? Mm-hmm. I put quotes around success because that means something different for a lot of different people as well. But for many, many folks, they especially in the entrepreneurial world, there's I think a very unhealthy perception that success is purely a financial thing, right? Mm-hmm. That essentially what I'm aiming for is more money for me, which, I think frustratingly and infuriatingly, that's generally an evil goal. Yeah. Right. That is an evil thing. There's no two ways about it, right? Yeah. Wealth-seeking behavior, at least at the expense of other people's health or your own, mm-hmm. that is a not only a negative but an immoral thing as well. Yeah, I think what can be great, what capitalism sort of does for us that can be wonderful is align the interest of our professional career and the investments we want to make in ourselves and the pursuit of money and wealth and material gain. And when those things happen, we can do it in such a way that also adds to the world around us. Yeah. And so I think there's a place that we all have to get to of healthiness around understanding our own motivations and making those match with our worldviews, mm-hmm. and then reconciling that, and then taking that reconciliation, taking that understanding and connecting it up to this idea of it is okay to make mistakes and to fail and to try again. It's okay to make mistakes and fail and give up and try something new. Mm-hmm. And it's okay for ourselves because it's okay for everyone else. Yeah. Right. So I would never, if you told me on this call, Jordan, that, your company had just failed a few months ago, mm-hmm. right? During the pandemic, things went south for you. Mm. Am I going to think less of you or more? Are your listeners going to think less of you, or are they going to think more of you? Mm-hmm. Are they going to judge you at all for that? No. Right? In fact, just like you said to me, they'll appreciate your honesty. They want to know your story. They care about you. You've gone from, figurehead and icon to human being.
Yeah.
And that can be a wonderful thing. And so let's afford ourselves the same grace and comfort that we would to someone else.
Yeah.
How do you get there? It's a journey, man. It's a journey.
Yeah, I can imagine. I always say this to people because I teach and I mentor a lot of agency owners who have the false perception initially of success comes easy. It's a quote unquote. Signing up clients is easy. Making a ton of money is easy. Getting clients results is easy. And then all of these points, there's all these hurdles and things go wrong and things don't go to plan. And then the minute these hurdles come, a lot of people then get really bummed out for a long time, beat themselves up over it, and then sometimes just stop working on that business altogether. And that's the great shame of it, I think, for me, when I see people who have done such a great job at getting as far as they possibly could, and then that final wall that they needed to push through has kind of stopped them in their tracks. And I think that's a shame of it. And I think false perceptions of how easy it is to make something happen, or how easy it is to get success, whatever that may be to you, I think that those false perceptions have a lot to do with that these days, because I think that not enough people are showing the bad side of things. Not enough people are showing the struggles and the times they screwed up. I mean, I literally just uploaded a video on YouTube 2 weeks ago going through all of my biggest failures as an agency owner. And I realized, like, why haven't I done that yet? And I thought, well, it's actually just ego. It's like self-protection. And in a way, that's like a way to protect yourself away from thinking, okay, someone's going to judge me about this. And people loved that video. They loved that transparency. And I wish I did that sooner. And I think more people need to do that. Be more transparent, like yourself, about the depression, about the beating yourself up about things in your business. And it's a trait that you don't see very often in successful people, or really any person in this day and age. So what was it that led you to actually wanting to write a very honest blog about that? And then of course your book, Lost and Founder. Was there a key time in your life that you made you realize, look, it's important now more than ever to be open about this?
So I think that a big part of Lost and Founder came from two things. One, conversations like this one, right? I would talk to other entrepreneurs, whether it's agency owners or technologists, entrepreneurs, founders. And it almost always came back to this conversation of, hey, tell me about what went right and wrong for you, and what would you learn out of it? It was less formal and structured than our conversation is, obviously, but same thing, and a similar level of what do I want to call it? Like emotional closeness that you build with another person rapidly. I heard someone say that the reason podcasts have become popular is because grown men need a reason to have meaningful conversations with each other. They need an excuse, right? And like, oh, look at us having a meaningful conversation. We're just using a podcast as an excuse. And I think that in many ways, the book was just an outlet for trying to reach a broader audience with those same types of conversations, right? Saying like, gosh, okay, I've had this kind of a talk a dozen times, 10 dozen times in, bars and pubs and conference halls and whatever, over coffees and that kind of thing. Could I scale that? Could I make it such that a lot more people could benefit from it? From what seems to be a relatively unique and interesting experience. And I think it's not that unique of an experience. What's unique about it is, unlike most people, I'm willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And the willingness to talk about it, the willingness to explore, and maybe the level of introspection is valuable, right? It's valuable because it's unique. Yeah. And I think this is one of the biggest marketing takeaways I've always had, and is that when there is an area of value to be created that no one else is investing in, or no one else is investing in you have unique opportunity, right? Yeah. That's where a lot of value comes in. And so this is where Lost and Founder came from. That's how my sort of experience with transparency, right? For folks who might have been, reading the Moz blog for whatever, a decade and a half, right? They'll recall that it was one of the very early places where we, did things, crazy things like published our revenue and talked about our, employee count and talked about our growth and failures and those kinds of things. And you're right? Same thing as the video you uploaded to YouTube, that was of great interest to many readers. And that showed me, oh, there's a market for this, right? Absolutely. There's opportunity here.
There's so much value in transparency, I think.
And what's sort of interesting now is I think that value is declining slightly. And it's declining slightly because there are more people who are willing to do it. And so you have to be somewhat more extraordinary in either the transparency itself or the uniqueness of the field that you're providing it in, or the way that you're describing it, or, whatever it is, right? So as an example, I actually think that there's too few stories being told around small and mid-level successes right now in transparent ways. I don't know if you read Hacker News regularly, but this morning, one of the top pieces is by a guy I know, Josh Pigford, who started Baremetrics. And apparently he just sold it. He just sold it for like $4 million, and he details the whole thing in the post. I haven't read something like that.
Yeah.
Like there are not a lot of, hey, here's exactly how the payout was structured, how the deal got done, what it looked like. Here's all the details about the acquirer. Whenever there's a deal like that, I don't know how much the founders are walking away with. I know exactly how much Josh made. That's remarkable and unique. So I think that is something to keep in mind for people who are thinking about how they want to leverage whatever transparency or openness. What I do believe is that it can be very cathartic.
Yeah.
It can, when you tell the story openly and honestly, and share it with other people, knowing that other people are consuming it and that they see you for who you are and still respect you or respect you more, that is very empowering.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. From past experiences, whenever I've shared anything and I've been as transparent as I possibly can, it leaves you feeling empowered around that situation. And so there was a you just mentioned that blog post. There was very recently a video which had a similar impact on me. There's a company called Gymshark in the UK, and I'm not sure if they're very recognizable now. They've gone global. It's a sportswear brand, for anyone who doesn't know, founded in 2012, and they've just had £1 million valuation, which is absolutely colossal. And the guy's like 25 years old, the CEO, and he created this YouTube video going through the entire acquisition, like breaking down his percentage. He still owns like 70% of the business or something insane like that, and he breaks down the entire business, breaks down the buyout of his business partner, and it's just such a valuable video. And I think a lot of people have the perception, especially when they're starting off in entrepreneurship, is it's very scary to ask people about their accounts and experiences. And I think a lot of people think that successful people, whatever that may mean, keep their secrets guarded very close to their chest. But actually, if you just ask people, you seek the knowledge, a lot of people are willing to be transparent with you, and a lot of people are willing to help you out. And it actually leads on to a very rather selfish question I have, because I'm interested on a personal level, how you manage your time, because you are on the road all the time. You speak. I think I read somewhere you mentioned you maybe not at the moment with what's going on.
Yeah, not this year.
You've spoken in the past 100 days out of the year or whatever, and how do you manage that time? Because like I'm managing 2 businesses. I feel very, very busy. When I introduce speaking, like if someone wants me to speak like 3 times a year, I'm like so hard done by that. Like I'm like, I have to prepare for this for like a couple of days and I have to do this and then I have to travel there. It's just this mental, I think, capacity thing for me. But you're putting me to shame in that regard. So how are you managing your time as well as other aspects of your life and keeping your wife happy?
I mean, so I think, let's see, I do work very hard to put my relationship, first. And I think Geraldine does the same, right? So we are generally very, very supportive of each other, and that is a put in the work kind of thing, right? So that means good open communication and, discussions about like what what we're going to do together and not. And yeah, I think that has generally worked very well, right? And helped us build a great life. I will say one of the biggest things that many folks listening, I don't know the age or demographics of your audience generally, but Geraldine and I don't have kids. So that makes a ton of, if I want to be on the road 100 days a year and Geraldine's with me for 60 or 70 of them, that's great, right? And if she wants to be with me for 40 or 50 of them, that's fine too, right? And, if I do 30 speaking events or 40 or 15, it really doesn't matter all that much, because there's not we're both self-sufficient adults and we can take care of ourselves and each other, and we like being together, right? But we're okay if we have a few nights apart. I think the other reality is I built a professional life and career to be able to manage, to sort of include a lot of, whatever you want to call it, travel and events and speaking and those sorts of things, like as part of it. So I have a very non-obligation filled life, meaning, I have many obligations. I have this podcast with you this morning. I have another appointment that starts in half an hour, right? But it's sort of scheduled out, and none of it is recurring in such a way that I'm, sort of locked in.
Yeah.
Right? So next week, my calendar will look totally different to this week. And 4 weeks out, there's almost nothing on it.
Yeah. Okay.
4 weeks from now, there will be, but it's all manageable. And that's pretty different from what I had with Moz, generally speaking, right? Because at Moz, I had, an executive team and regular meetings and all those kinds of things. And I'd have to dial in from wherever I was on the road, yada, yada. I have not structured things that way at SparkToro. So I think you can design and few people understand this, but as you grow in your career, especially as an entrepreneur, you can design your professional life to suit the life that you want to build.
Yeah.
That might mean sacrificing some opportunity, but I would argue that you will be a happier, healthier person if you design your life for the way in which you operate. For example, I'm a horrific night owl. And so early morning meetings are soul crushing for me. Like they're just deadly to my productivity. If I have one morning where I have an 8 a.m. meeting, even a 9 a.m. meeting, the rest of the day, I can barely get stuff done because I will have gotten almost no sleep the night before or not enough sleep the night before. And so my mornings have to start late. And as a result, I build my life around this.
Yeah.
And therefore I can do a few things. I can make better decisions, right? The number one thing that correlates with better decision-making is sleep. Number two, it's right, exercise and diet and mental health. And so if you can get those things right, you can make great decisions. And what the hell else is a job of a CEO and a founder other than to make great decisions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to get that blog post out today. You don't have to send that email. You don't have to do whatever that one work item is, but you better make great decisions for your company and your team. That's going to be the most crucial aspect. For
sure. And play to your strengths, of course. Like you're a night owl. I'm the opposite. I'm the morning guy.
And here I am forcing you to do late night podcasting.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No,
sorry.
Luckily we're only 7:30. We're good. And it's worth it. So I'm a morning guy. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I was only saying last week to my partner, like, I love this time of the day. I'm looking out and I'm getting all this done and everyone else is asleep. And it's like, I think a lot of people will watch either yourself or watch me and it's like, right, Jordan does this or Rand does this, so I need to do this. And I think you need to recognize what's good for you. Like, who's to say that you can't stay up till the early hours of the morning and then you can sleep at different hours? As long as you're getting to sleep and your body's used to that schedule, then it's perfectly healthy. It doesn't matter. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, but people, I think it's very easy for us to read something in a book or read something online or model ourselves on someone else's success without taking into account that every single person is individual and everybody has their own individual strength. So I think reading your body, I think there's a bit of advice somebody gave me recently, and I hadn't really thought about it before. So reading your body is really, really important. It's like, do what your body is telling you to do. If you feel tired and you don't want to get that bit of work done this evening, then don't get that bit of work done. Do it tomorrow. It can wait. It's not going to be at the detriment of your business.
It's one of those skills that I think especially young men in their teens and 20s are terrible at, like almost universally terrible at. And it just takes, it takes that extra decade. I certainly didn't have any of that awareness or ability to invest. I probably had the ability, but I did not have the drive to invest in. And I spent a lot of my 20s burning the midnight oil at both ends and making a lot of terrible decisions as a result.
Yeah.
And in fact, it turns out, statistically speaking, your body needs more rest when you're a teenager and a 20-something than you do in later years. So, I just, who knows how amazingly successful, whatever that means, I might have been if I had slept more in my teens and 20s.
Yeah. I see some people say like, I get 4 hours a day and I function fine. And I'm like, I'm really not sure that you do. I'm not sure. That's like, you've watched too many Gary Vee videos today. Okay. You're like, hustle till I die. Like, no, you're probably really damaging yourself by getting 4 hours of sleep for a prolonged amount of time. Because ultimately people also think, oh, well, I'm laying in bed for 4 hours. That means I'm getting 4 hours of sleep. Well, actually, no, you're probably getting 3 hours of sleep by the time you've been tossing and turning throughout the evening. And so,
I mean, if I get 3 hours of sleep, I don't think I could string together 3 sentences coherently. And if I do it 2 nights in a row, I'm basically just a blob of cells, like not a living, breathing,
not an ideal situation. That's not what we want. So get your sleep, guys. Rand, have you got anything you're working on at the moment, or you have in the pipeline that you're excited about?
I am currently working on a marketing focused analysis of the US election.
Okay.
So trying to
That's cool.
Pull away some of the big marketing lessons from both sort of the last 4 years of, whatever, political history and trying to tease out what marketers can take away from that. It's my opinion that the US elections, because they are so extraordinarily heavily funded, are a maybe the greatest example of sort of public marketing on the world stage that people can observe, right? And so I think there's a lot of human behavior and psychology and marketing takeaways that are of value. And so that's a post I'm hoping to finish by the end of the week. We'll see.
That's awesome. I'm going to make sure I've got my notifications turned on so I can see that. That's I was only talking about that last week. We're talking about literally just the election from a marketing standpoint, and so that'll be really interesting, guys. Make sure you check out that post. Where will you share that?
So I'm most active on Twitter, where I'm at Rand Fish, but I'll post it to LinkedIn and probably Facebook as well. It'll be on the SparkToro blog. So sparktoro.com/blog. And folks can get email alerts there if they want. Anticipate it will be as, relatively nonpartisan as I can, but also, in case you couldn't tell from hearing me talk about things today, I am a very progressive minded person on the political spectrum. And so tend to generally seek, tend to identify with politicians who are more progressive and kinder.
Of course. I noticed that one thing that really interested me was there was talks of a Joe Rogan podcast during this election. And so Joe Rogan called out, obviously Joe Biden and Mr. Trump, and they said that they were going to, he offered them out on the podcast, of which Trump accepted, and I think there was some, and the Trump the Trump marketing team used that as a Facebook advert to say, hey, Joe, you haven't accepted this invitation, but I have. And they leveraged this and obviously spent thousands on it because it had so much engagement. Of course, it didn't work out for him, but it was just interesting to see that how many very informal tactics were used. And especially, I mean, even if we look back on the previous elections, when I dive deeper, I'm sure you've seen the Netflix documentary diving into Cambridge Analytica. Just absolutely incredible stuff from a marketing standpoint. I mean, completely unethical, but from a marketing standpoint, the tactics that we're using, I would say as a marketer, you can't deny that they were very, very well thought out.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true, right? And I think there's a lot of challenges for many marketers to try and take away actionable items especially from the Trump campaign as compared to sort of previous American Republican. Many marketers are, some combination of unwilling to, it's unethical to go down those paths. It's relatively unappealing to people outside of the political spectrum, right? So if you were to position products in that way, it's not going to go well for you, right? Because it doesn't appeal to your demographics. I do think there's, let's see, what would I call it? I think that the problems of figuring out who your market is and whether certain political style tactics will appeal is a real challenge, right? And look, if you're Joe Rogan, like the Trump audience is your audience, right? Like they love you both, that's sort of your world, right? It's that like machoism and very I don't know what to call it, problematic masculinity.
Controversial, right? Isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, controversial suggests like there are multiple sides and the people disagree, whereas that's not really how I would think about it, right? I think it's morally reprehensible, just from a factual basis. The fact that there are people who are willing to embrace it does not mean that it's not wrong, right? And we can all recognize what right and wrong are. And I don't think we should be shy about calling that out. I think one of the biggest problems in modern politics and society is a press and a culture that sort of says, well, we need to represent both sides without partisan impact, as opposed to, candidate A says it's raining outside, candidate B says it's dry. Well, let's talk about, both sides of the issue, as opposed to like, well, is it raining or not? Just tell me, don't play this game. And I think that unfortunately has benefited some pretty unethical things in the world of politics and society. So we should call that out. But this is part of the analysis that I think we need to do, is we recognize what kind of media environment that we're in, and then we go and recognize the impact that has on marketing. So for example, because of the media environment around politics, Donald Trump is not going to be called out by the media for certain things, right? That Joe Biden or whoever, right? Hillary Clinton or, whatever. If you and I ran against him, right? We would be called out for those things and he wouldn't. And so let's recognize that that's true. And also, if you were to start a company and do some of those same things, you wouldn't just be called out, you would be sued into oblivion and you would be in jail, right? So like, very, very different sorts of things that you can get away with as a...
Absolutely. There's almost a completely different rule book. But as you said, there are so many lessons to be taken on a, if we take the macro knowledge and dissect it, there are tactics within that, even looking at as I said, the Cambridge Analytica stuff, obviously not manipulating an audience, not abusing data, but there's so much to be learned from human psychology and behaviors behind your advertising and targeting audiences, which are maybe, for example, one of the things I took from that was when marketing for a company or marketing a certain product, I no longer, as a marketing agency, I'd maybe go for the obvious audiences, whereas nowadays I try and go for the audiences which are secondary or even third, or the ones that other people aren't looking for, which those are the potential audiences that can convert in the future if I just lean them a certain way.
And I think, several things made themselves really clear in analysis of the social campaigns, which was, as the campaigns started taking advantage of all of this deep targeting that was available to them in whatever it was, Facebook, but not just Facebook, right? Twitter as well, and almost certainly Google as well. Those platforms have started to pull back on the data that's available to us as advertisers and marketers, right? And some of that is privacy concerns, and some of it is, the more that they pull that data back, the more that people spend with them, because they can't get as micro-targeted, so they can't get the great ROI, so they can't, get the cheaper audiences that convert more highly for them. They have to go broad, which means everybody's competing in the ad auction. So recognize that Google and Facebook are playing that game, and therefore third-party tools, third-party data, and your own analysis, your own creativity to be able to extract elements of your audience that make them high likelihood of purchasing, high likelihood of converting, great customer targets. If you can put that data into your campaigns in a way that, Facebook and Google don't generally make easy to find in their platforms, you can get much better return on investment than your competition.
Definitely.
And, this is like this is the core ideology behind SparkToro, right? Definitely. The idea is, let's go extract a bunch of behavioral data from public social networks and then provide it at scale in a way that's similar to election polling, actually. And then, let marketers use that data to build better PR campaigns, better content campaigns, better keyword research, better ad targeting, better market research, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Guys, make sure you check out SparkToro as well. It'll be very useful for many of you who are watching this. Rand, I'm conscious of time. So you have a meeting in 10 minutes, and there's nothing worse than coming straight off one call and going on to another.
Hey, Jordan, for you, I don't mind. By the way, the Chatty with Platty thing, I am so sensitive to people making like weird things on Fishkin.
Are you?
I'm very impressed with you for like, let's just...
It's transparency. Don't worry about it. That's yeah, no, the Chatty with Platty, I've had friends for years calling me Platty. It used to be Platypus so I'm Platten, so it'd be Platypus. And I thought, what? I'm just going to embrace this thing. I used to get annoyed when I was a kid. So
there's one person in the whole world who calls me Fish. It's my friend Will Reynolds, and who runs an agency out in Philadelphia. And nobody else. Nobody else gets to call me Fish.
It's banned. Well, so it would be taboo for me to say that you'd warrant a very great business name called Fishkin. Would be fantastic.
Let's
a fish and chip, English fish and chip store. Come over to the UK, launch it. Fishkin. You'll do bits over here.
Oh, I do miss being able to travel. My God.
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah, it'll be not too long in the future. Rand, where can people reach you if they want to reach you? What platforms are you most active on?
Sure. Yeah. So Twitter is probably the best place to follow me if you want kind of a mix of everything that I talk about, where I'm at Randfish. If you're looking for sort of just blog and professional updates, I do those on LinkedIn as well, where I'm Rand Fishkin. And the SparkToro blog is somewhere I write usually weekly, sometimes twice a week, sparktoro.com/blog. And if you want to try the product out, we have a forever free plan, so folks can give it a spin. It's sparktoro.com.
Amazing. Definitely go check that out, guys. And make sure you follow Rand's content and check out that blog. I'm really interested to see that, genuinely. So yeah, thank you so much, Rand. And I'll speak to you guys very, very soon. Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Jordan.